Hi, this is Robbie Tolk, founder of Secrets to Healing. Today I'm bringing you another amazing interview from a doctor that I've searched far and wide, all the way out in Louisiana, Lafayette, Louisiana. His name is Dr. Chris Cormier. Hello, and how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Robbie. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. Is it okay if I call you Dr. Chris?
Oh, please do.
Perfect. Well, let me introduce you a little bit more because actually, quite surprised. You've done a lot over these past few years. I know you're founder of the Nerve Health Institute. You're author of Hidden Diagnosis, also author of God's Amazing Machine, and founder of Nerve Health Foundation. So congratulations. That's a lot to put on your resume.
It is, and it's been just an incredible time. I'll tell you, it's been an incredible journey. Lots of ups and downs, and all along the path of just helping people more efficiently.
And I want to talk about that because today our subject is nutrition for your nerves and future diet. And this is something that's such a passion of mine because I understand over these past couple years what I put in my body I get out, and it's the reason why I can perform at the peak level that I perform at and able to work 12-hour days and just get cranking on stuff. So my big question to you before we really jump into our subject today is, tell me about your journey about becoming a master healer and where it started and kind of how you came to where you are today.
It's been. I'll tell you, the biggest motivation I've ever had has been my family, I'll just say this: for many years, I felt like I was a regular chiropractor, and just meaning that they teach us in school that you straighten the spine, and supposedly it makes everything work better, and certainly there's some therapy to that, and there's some help to people. But I felt compelled, especially when my family started getting sick, to give a higher level of treatment to people, and especially for my family. So through so many different motivational things in my life, I can't tell you how much my family has motivated me in order to achieve a higher healthcare. I started out as this regular chiropractor, and then basically over time, just started searching out better ways to help the body more efficiently heal itself. And, throughout this whole journey, looking back on it now, it's now common sense. And it all goes back to just little bitty points. And, obviously, as you mentioned, I'm the founder of the Nerve Health Institute. Well, many people don't realize this, but from the moment each human body is conceived, so right when the sperm meets the egg, the first system that begins forming in every human being are your nerves. And then when you die, the last system that dies are your nerves. Really? So I ask people all the time in my office, I'm like, what's the most important part of your body? And I'll have 50, 60, 70-year-old people come in the office and say, I have no idea.
Wow.
So it's pretty crazy that, people are much more adept at their house in repairing their house and understanding the parts in their house and understanding the parts in their cars, but they have no idea what the most important part of their human body is.
Wow. So that is such a fascinating concept because I know very few people are educated in nerves, and until I met you, my father's a chiropractor, so I had light training in it, but never really put the attention I needed to until we started talking. And I know nerves are such an important thing. For you, what would you break down the key part of keeping your nervous system healthy as?
Well, there's so many different factors, and if we just get back to the nerves themselves, I guess understanding the nerves is a little bit more crucial for people. So, let's just, when I say the word nerves, people a lot of times have no idea what I'm talking about. So you do, because we've had conversations a little bit before this interview, and so you have a little bit of an idea. Yeah. But just to kind of give the people that are listening out there a little bit better idea of what a nerve is. So, obviously I'm sitting here and my brain is here, in the center of my skull. And there's few people in the world that would argue that's the most important part of my body. So when it's not there, you're not here. Pretty simple. Well, your brain gives power to all parts of your body. And keep in mind, your brain is the largest nerve in your body. So you got to imagine you're not wireless. So all your parts, we're talking about your muscles, your organs, your skin, your bones, everything in your body is wired to your brain through all these nerves. So as you're sitting in front, and as I'm sitting in front right here, we're walking masses of wires, of nerves. So, keeping that in context, it's crazy important throughout the course of your life to stay connected and stay high-speed digital speed with your brain to all your parts, where your parts stay powered up. And so we've developed along the course of really understanding, and I think it's part of my fascination that you can tell in my voice as I'm sitting here. I can't. It's so deep-rooted passion inside of me because I think I'm so just incredibly overwhelmed at the magnificence of the human body and what it's capable of, and the actual way it was designed and built. We as humans gawk at the iPhone and these computers we're in front of. And these have they don't even hold a candle in comparison to our human bodies.
I believe that 100%. And when you say powered by the nerves, are you saying that like the nerves can shut off and on?
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
What I'm saying is, so here's an example, okay? A bicep, right? So this bicep right here is a muscle that's here, okay? So as I'm sitting in front and I'm doing this, well, there is a very specific nerve that exits from and I guess let's go back to analogies. Let's just consider that your nervous system is a tree. So, and each tree should be a beautiful green tree. Well, as I'm sitting in front, the roots of the nervous system are your brain. And then you have this massive extension cord that's the trunk of the tree, your spinal cord, that runs all the way down your back. And off of that amazing trunk, you have all these branches of nerves, big, big branches. They come off, and they actually go to smaller and smaller parts of your body. So in that regard, the nerves can basically, over time, through various stresses you're coming into contact with your life, they can turn on or off, and they can get dysfunctional at any given moment with any given stress.
Wow. So I know that. So the concept that my nerves can go on and off is just huge to me because most people, when you hear nerves turn off, there's no turning back on. And I know my mom, has MS, so I deal with this personally, and I've seen tremendous leaps forward with quantum neurology and things of that sort, which I know you're somebody who practices that as well. My question to you, to link back today's subject, is tell me about how nutrition and nerves come together and why it's so important to really feed your body well.
Okay, so as we talked about, nerves are so important to stay on, and I guess I just want to comment before I get to that on a section that you said, because knowing what you know about healing, and then all the people that are listening on this video today, when something bad happens to you, let's say maybe it's a tragedy, unfortunately, that all of us have to experience at some point in our life, where something bad happens, someone close to you dies. Something happens. Immediately, you feel sick to your stomach. What does that mean? Neurologically, think about it. Your stomach doesn't work by itself. It works by power from your brain. So at that given moment, when that stress, that emotional stress hits you, it affects your tree. It's similar to a hurricane affecting, and I'm going to use we're in Louisiana, so we get hit by hurricanes. So, unfortunately, but a hurricane can affect a tree in the same way. You get this storm that comes in and this stress, and it suddenly discommunicates or makes the nerve get dysfunctional between your brain and your digestive tract. And it's not just one nerve that comes from your brain to your digestive tract. It's a lot of nerves. In fact, a lot of leading scientists call the gastrointestinal tract a second brain.
Yes, I've heard of that.
You got to figure from the moment you swallow something to the time it comes out of you, you got roughly a mile long of tubing.
Wow.
So imagine every section of that mile long of tubing has a direct nerve connection to the brain. So you can imagine, when you do have events like that, stuff can happen. Or you're nervous. When you're nervous, basically you have areas where your nerves are getting disconnected. You get anxious about something.
That makes sense. So people that get themselves in such a emotional state, they can actually end up throwing up over nothing that's physically happening to them except what's going on in the mind.
Yep, there's an emotional stress a lot of times, and so that category of stress. So people ask me all the time, well, what can turn off my nerves? Mm-hmm. And so the answer is simple. It's in one category called stress.
Wow.
And so stress can be emotional stress. It could be a thought. It could be a memory. It could be an event, a tragedy that's happening to you. But that's an emotional type of stress. But you also have a physical type of stress. So meaning, I'm sitting in front of you right now. What if I was sitting in front of you like this? Or what if I was sleeping, all discombobulated and on my stomach and turned sideways, and if I was doing that every night? Or, what if I'm lifting something heavy and yanking something out? We just hauled up this hockey table for my children. And it's a really, so these are stressful events that all of you go through. And those are physical stresses. And that varies on a daily basis. So any of those physical stresses at any given moment can turn on or off your nerves. Mm-hmm. But then the third type of stress is biochemical stress. So meaning anything you eat, anything you drink, anything you rub on your skin, anything you breathe in has potential at any given moment to either turn on or off your nervous system. Mm. And so that's why a lot of people will eat something and they're not really aware. And, we're in Louisiana. A lot of people are guilty of this because their diets aren't the best here. I guess that's why I've really gone on this mission of beyond just helping my family. Now it's a bigger cause. We got to help thousands, millions of people out there. But, you'll eat something that's bad for you, and intuitively you eat it. While you're eating it, boy, it tastes great, and you think it's awesome. And then right after, you're like, oh, I don't feel so good.
Yes.
What do you think's happened? Let's go back to your most important parts. When you ate that particular item, it was a stress, a biochemical stress to your system that maybe your nervous system didn't like.
That makes sense. Today I actually went to a restaurant that I thought was somewhat healthy, and I ate it. And I just felt a huge plunge in energy. I felt myself where I had to change and alter my state with movement and breathing in order to come back from it. And it's funny that it happened today when I'm talking to you about diet and nutrition and your nervous system. So I didn't realize that it was actually affecting my nerves as well. So basically what I'm hearing from you is what I eat actually affects my nervous system, therefore affects my whole body.
Absolutely. And remember, everything, the most important part of your body goes back to nerves. And it's a scientific fact. I mean, when you strip off everything in the body, the most important thing you have are your nerves. So as you're feeding yourself and you're having some sort of response, it goes and trickles back to your nerves. Maybe you could say initially, oh man, my stomach got upset. But let's go deeper than that. Maybe my stomach got inflamed. Well, why did your stomach get inflamed? You see, it all goes back to the power supply from your brain to your stomach and to your gastrointestinal tract at that particular moment. So you can imagine it trickles into all sorts of other stuff as your body's processing maybe something that's not good for you in a food or a drink. You could essentially turn off many more nerves throughout your body.
Wow. So my question leads next to, because I studied a lot of nutritional plans or otherwise known as diets, but I believe everyone's on a diet in the sense that diet just contains what you eat. And I've spent years cleaning up my diet and researching and going off the deep end, eating super healthy to the point where I realized it wasn't healthy, to vegetarian, to trying vegan, to everything. My question to you is kind of what have you found? Because I'm always looking for advice and what's the next newest, greatest thing. And I know that you've been on a similar journey and gone through hundreds of diets before you started locking on to what I believe you use for yourself and your patients.
Yeah, and that brings up the case in point that at this time of year, as we're filming this, people overindulge so greatly, and especially in my state, in our area in South Louisiana, our food is just absolutely fantastic, and everybody can cook. So when you go to family parties and family functions, we're very social people down here, and people just overeat. So we're getting that season where you have to understand your body better, and so many people overeat through these phases of these holidays, and then all of a sudden they hear about this fad diet that comes up, and let's try this diet, that does this, and let's try this diet that does this, and let's try. And I've joked around with so many people. Tomorrow I could start the cucumber diet. I mean, seriously, I could tell everybody out there, look, all you do is eat cucumbers and you're going to lose weight. Well, guess what? Everybody would lose weight. Everybody would lose weight for a placebo period. And then, you'd have a period where it would happen. And after that, it would just fade away. And that's why they're fad diets. And the general concept with this stuff is you can't overgeneralize everybody and throw everybody into one category and say, hey, you can only eat this. And this applies to all foods. So I think that's been the biggest discovery I've made is it needs to be individualized based on you.
Yeah. I mean, there's no other thing where one shoe fits 7 billion or over 7 billion now where the world population stands. And that's something I've always struggled with is, some tribes will eat just meat and be fine, and some will eat just vegetables and be fine, and some fish. And there's been such a mixture of foods that are going out there that how do we determine, well, then what's customized for me? Who do I go to? What do I do? Because I can really see the benefit that, not everyone in the world needs to eat this one thing. Some people are allergic. Some people's bodies don't react. So how do you start refining that?
Well, I started on a journey, obviously, with nerves. And from the point of the beginning, I realized real quickly that nerves are your most important thing to fuel. And so what I did is I started researching what the best foods in the world were for nerves. And that led me on a journey where, I'm seeing, hundreds and thousands of patients in my office. And so I have a captive audience that's there that I'm able to really try to help them the best I possibly can, and also kind of see what foods are more beneficial to them versus others by testing through the nervous system that we do. So I started out on this journey where I was going to develop my own which I was going to call the nerve health diet. And basically, I tested out we did 350 kinds of foods originally in Ziploc bags. My wife thought I was, a scientist, this wacky scientist, which I am. I'm always trying to experiment and try to figure out better for my patients. But we had Ziploc bags, all these items. We were testing patients in the office to see what was good, what was bad. And then, I came to a point where I started researching more, and luckily came across Dr. Peter Diadamo's genotype diet. And basically everything this guy has done fit exactly what I was looking for. In fact, I had read his old blood type diet book years ago, which I want to say probably was 15 years ago or so.
Oh, wow.
And basically in that diet, he just subcategorized people into 4 different blood types and said, if you're a blood type A, you can only eat this. If you're a blood type B, you can only eat this. If you're a blood type AB, you can only eat this. If you're a blood type O, you can only eat this. And so that was great back then, but it needed to be more specific than just sticking people into 4 subcategories. And needless to say, I'm going to back up and just say that was great in and of itself, just because it was subcategorizing people more than just one category, like all these fad diets do. But now what he's done in this thing, it's called the Swami Personalized Genotype Diet. It's DNA specific. So In other words, we can actually check your body, the epigenetics of your body through all these various tests we do, and actually look at you as an individual, where we measure we do your fingertip analysis, we measure all your extremities, all your joints, we measure your teeth structure. We do a family history on you. We send fluids and have them analyzed, and we get your blood type, and basically we get all this data into his system, and we're able to get a 35 to 45 page report that explains 850 kinds of foods and drinks that you should or should not be eating based on your individuality.
Oh, wow. 850. I mean, that seems pretty in depth. I mean, that covers a lot of the major food groups plus a lot more.
Yeah.
And that's so that each person would have their own one. It wouldn't just be like there's like 10 groups of people now. It's literally using your DNA and all the other things that you grab to say, okay, this is what your body likes and doesn't like, and what will react well or not well. And I believe you divided them into 3 groups, like you said, correct? The foods.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 groups. So there's and it's all his work. And I just have to say this. I know him personally. And I'm just going to say, I feel very honored to be around some of the smartest people in the world with respect to the body. I think that's the only way you can learn. So I don't consider myself to be the smartest person in the world with respect to the body, but I can promise you I'm around the smartest people in the world. And I feel like that just resonates. It creates this it elevates your intelligence. And so I feel very fortunate to be this small town boy from a very small area in Louisiana, in Cajun country, and not the healthiest place in the world, but yet now I'm one of the best health representatives in the world with respect to this higher level technology. I'm fortunate to be surrounded by people like Dr. D'Adamo, who's developed this amazing way of looking at the individuality of someone, and I feel like it's the only one on the market today, and it needs to get a lot more recognition and kudos because it obviously goes after each individual, and it tells you, hey, it's like buying a car. You walk up in the dealership and you get this car. Maybe it's a Toyota or whatever brand it is. Well, they're going to tell you it's 87 octane or 88 octane or 89 octane that car is going to need, and maybe you need a fuel additive here or there with the car, and you got to clean your fuel filter, and you get specific instructions with reference to that particular model and make and car. And people look at it and they know all of it, and man, this is what I do with my car. But when you're born, nobody gives you that.
And now we have it developed.
Yeah, it's something that everybody in the world really needs to understand is you're an individual and you have an individualized group of foods you should be eating. And some of the foods are astonishing because, examples are my wife, bananas are a superfood for me and they're an avoid for my wife. So that means every time she eats a banana, something neurologically in her body's going to turn off. There's going to be a nerve that gets weaker somewhere in her body as a result of eating that banana. And so, people would think bananas are good for everybody, and they're not. And coffee, for instance, there's all these arguments online. Coffee's the greatest thing ever, and other people say it's terrible. Well, the simple fact is, it's good for some people, and it's not good for some people. It depends on your individuality. So for my wife, it's a superfood. For me, it's an avoid. So it's just there's so many areas. Peanut butter, for instance, is a superfood for my wife. It's an avoid for me. It's such a power that it gives to you, and it holds yourself. You have to hold yourself accountable. You have to say at the end of the day, oh, you know what? Maybe I don't feel so good because I ate this, and you get to understand your system better.
Perfect. So I can see why you chose it because it's a really personalized plan for you seems more in detail than anything. I've never heard of anyone releasing 850 foods, whether they're a food to avoid, a food to that's kind of neutral, and a superfood. So you started with you and your family because were doing the 350 bags, and you came across it, and you saw success with your family. I'm assuming your kids are on it as well.
Oh yes, but I'm a very big person when it comes to that. I never recommend anything without a due diligence phase. So being the scientist I am, I like to be harshly critical of everything that I represent. And there's no better guinea pig than myself. So, and I can tell you, some of the stuff I've tried over the years has not been too good. So I've learned from experience that, and understanding with nerves that, this by far is the best thing I've ever recommended. And as we're sitting here now, it's been over 2 years that I've been in this beta testing phase.
Wow.
Of this.
2 years. So
yes.
When you say beta testing phase, you're meaning that you've actually been using on yourself, your family, and patients, I'm assuming, as well?
Yeah, and we're not talking about every patient. We're talking about more select patients that are out there. So I haven't really been, saying, oh my goodness, every patient that walks through my door, you have to do this. But the patients that really have issues, you can tell with their diet. We question them throughout their initial, documentation, and you can tell. I mean, they've got issues on the biochemical stress side, where they're not feeding their system very well. Those are the ones that we really say, look, you got to make some changes, because otherwise I'm going to work on your nerves and make your nerves do much better, and you're going to leave here and eat a bunch of stuff that's going to turn your nerves off. So it's one of those things, you want to coach them through these areas, and so now it's ready, and it's going to be exciting.
So your patients have tested it with you, and you've tested it, and you've come to a firm conclusion. It sounds like this is the real deal, that the nerves are being turned off. I know you're an expert at seeing if they're turned off or on, and you're watching it firsthand, which was cool with your wife with bananas and you with coffee, correct?
Oh, it's much more than those two foods, but yeah.
yeah, just as examples, I'm saying. So
Absolutely.
The big thing that I see here is, I'm super interested in the diet. I actually want to do it myself. Can I do it online? Do I have to come see you? What's the process, and if I wanted to get going and engage in it? Because I really do, because having a report printed of 850 foods where I can see what they are, regardless of what I believe are good or bad, from going online. Because I found when I go online, like you said, one person says it's the best food ever, the next person says it's the worst food ever, and I'm stuck in the middle going, I give up, like, who's right, who's wrong? And I don't have the time to do the clinical studies or the scientific research.
Yeah, the thing is, okay, so to answer your question, it's very difficult to do it at home. Dr. Diadamo is a brilliant man. He's offered the tools where you can order them and try it at home, but there's a high degree of error we found. In fact, there's such a high degree of error that he offers blood testing kits for yourself. And there's plenty of people out there who could probably do this, but we just found that we needed an expert within my office that only does this testing. Because when you're doing it, just like, it's like going to an auto mechanic, somebody that specializes and does this all the time is going to give you a better result than somebody maybe just trying it for the first time. So, this is not like just sticking your fingerprint on something and saying, oh, this it just matches your DNA. It's a bunch of different tests and a bunch of different measurements. And if you do any of these steps a little bit wrong, you can actually get the wrong outcome and change maybe a few or more foods that ultimately would actually not help you. So it's taking nothing away from Dr. Diadamo. He's tried to publicize and get this awesome information out to the public, because I think there's a whole lot of practitioners out there that should be recommending this, that just haven't jumped on board. So he's tried to make it available to the public through these routes. But the simple fact is, as we're sitting here, if you're on this call and you can't get to Louisiana, you need to encourage someone within your area to do this. I believe right now I'm probably the only doctor in the state of Louisiana doing it.
Wow. So that's amazing. So I'm about to fly out there and get it done. Because it's just food to me, and my study on health and healing and going through my own journey of being sick and learning how to be healthy is, I put food up there so high because it's something you're doing consistently. Eating and drinking is value to me so well, and I spend a lot of time studying food and the effects it has on my body. But now you're taking it to the next level with nerves and linking them. What are like the biggest challenges you have with the diet? I know besides the self. Once you said you can test your own blood and I'm out, I that's too much for me. Following simple directions can get a little bit challenging for most of us. But when it comes to implementing, a Swami diet where you're doing DNA and stuff of that, I'm good on going to the professionals. My question to you really comes into, okay, you get this sheet back, where do people struggle with it and how can they overcome that?
I think that's what our beta testing period allowed me to see. And before we did any type of real advertising campaign where we had watched this to people and said, hey, you've got to try this. I wanted to be able to understand how people would react to it. And the biggest thing we've seen is it's because it's 850 kinds of foods, we get people in the beginning flipping through it, just saying, oh my goodness, I can't do it. And so you give them what their body should be eating, what their body should have been eating their whole life, and you give them this information. It's like an instruction book you get when you're born. You ought to be given this. Unfortunately, people have been programmed to eat the wrong things, and so many people are lacking in proper intuition. So you eat something. You don't feel real good after it, but yet you keep eating it over and over and over and over and over. So, the biggest challenge with this is change. And getting people to understand.
Why would you want to change when you could just pop a Tums? They got great commercials out there saying, hey, don't listen to your body, eat another corn dog.
It's again, I guess those sorts of companies have so much money and so many resources because of how much money they've made. And by no means are we singling out Tums, and saying Tums is the worst thing ever. But there's just so much out there that are drugs that are masking things. When if you just kept things simple and you just thought about the body and said, you know what, this is my DNA, this is what my individuality, this is what my food groups are, and if I eat outside of this realm, there could be potential side effects, and those side effects are going to undoubtedly at some level get to your nerves and cause dysfunction on a deep-rooted level within your nerves of your tree. So the challenge is change, and I think that's why we've developed this support system that's going to go into place. And we haven't even implemented that part yet, but it's going to be a support system that goes into place where people are going to have this support, that they're going to not only get the diet, but they're going to have a support system for a minimum 6 months after the diet, because we want people to change their lives. We're not in this business, and I hate to say this, but I'm going to tell everybody out there, if I could do this for free, I would. That's how much I love doing what I do. I'm not in this, I'm going to tell you straight up, to make money. It's not. Yes, I have a very successful life, and I enjoy so much of what I do. But I'm in this to help people, and I want to change people's lives. I want them to understand the highest level technology in the world. It's available to them, and I want them to get their brain decluttered and basically just ward off all this stuff they've been taught and heard about on the internet and heard through an email. I want them to stop all that and just get back to common sense and think of the body in terms of, you're your own individuality. This is what you should be eating. And yes, it's going to be a little change. Yes, it's going to be hard. Maybe there's going to be some things you love that you can't eat. Primary example for me is coffee. So I'm going to give you the best analogy to this ever. I've gone through so many trials and tribulations. A lot of these trials and tribulations, I felt like I just had a 2x4 hit me in the head, where I wasn't seeing something that was happening right in front of myself. So I had all this training, and luckily I'm one of the top guys in the world for non-invasive nerve care and actually making nerves work.
Wow.
And so, I go out, and not only do I help train doctors, but I get taught, and we all share our knowledge. So I fly out to Los Angeles and do this stuff with the best doctors in the world. And as I'm sitting there, this was only a couple of years ago. As I'm sitting there, each morning we get worked on, and I would feel literally one of my nerves coming from my brain to my gallbladder. I would just feel it, in this area, right? Just and this is where the gallbladder is. You could literally feel something not right that particular morning as I'm sitting there. So I would go get one of our doctors to work on it and immediately feel better. Have like an immediate change, feel great the rest of the day. The next morning I'd wake up and I'd be sitting in class, the same group of doctors in front of me. I'd feel the same exact nerve go off. Well, I never put two and two together until I got back and started really getting into understanding biochemical stresses and foods and drinks and how they affect nerves. I was sitting there drinking my coffee. and not to mention, it was probably my second or third cup, So I'm swallowing it, and as it's going down, it's turning off nerve supply or making a nerve dysfunctional to parts of my gastrointestinal tract.
So that's crazy because we keep doing stuff, and I've done this too, where I keep slamming my head against the wall before I realize, okay, I need to switch. And I become really in tune with my body as well as you have. But with this Swami diet, it kind of bypasses that a little bit, because when you are not feeling well and you look at the list and you've eaten 3 out of the some of the avoid foods you shouldn't, then it shouldn't be a surprise. And it's something I work with people all the time. And that support is needed. No matter what I do when it comes to healing, or any master healer I've seen, they always offer some support that can keep going. But my big question for you, because again, I'm young. I think most people have the same question too. As I love feeling well, but I also like looking good. So is there a way to use this diet to, shed off some of that extra weight, or to build muscle, or whatever outcome you're looking for from a strictly physical standpoint? Where does it stand on that?
Absolutely. We've seen multiple cases lose lots of weight.
Wow.
And you can go to Dr. Diadamo's site. I mean, my goodness, he's got people all over the world every day via email, talking about, I had this, I don't have this, I had this, I don't have this, under so many different areas of the ailments, in addition to weight loss. But you got to think of it as the better fuel source you give to your particular individual tree, the greener, the browner, the stronger your tree is going to become. So, you can take some of your superfoods and eat more of those superfoods and not gain any weight. It's very cool.
Wow.
And actually feel better from it.
So your body's able to process it. It won't hold on to it. That's quite amazing, because that's the thing I really preach to people too, is besides losing weight, besides looking good, because those are 2 outcomes I have in my own life, at the end of the day, if you don't have health, nothing else matters. And that's the motto of Secrets to Healing, and which I live my life by. So it seems like this is not a I don't like using names, but a fad diet where eat all the carbs you want, and you'll lose weight, and then, because the statistics show 90 to upwards to 95% of people not only don't keep off the weight when they go on a diet, they add 2 pounds back on, which is just mind blowing. So it seems like when people enter these diets, their bodies aren't responding to them, and not only not responding to them, when they get off the diet, they're gaining weight.
Yes, and that's been a consistent pattern In fact, we'll see patients a lot of times that have tried 3, 4, 5 different diets. They'll lose 40, 50 pounds with one, gain 60 back. And then they'll try another one, lose another 40, 50 pounds, then gain 60 back or 70 back. They end up, over a course of time, weighing more than they weighed before they tried all those diets. And in the big picture, their nerve function, their overall nerve health has gone down.
Wow.
Because they've actually fueled their body with less quality foods. That's another contention I have. Is there's so many diets out there that are requiring all these processed foods, telling you to eat all these bars and all this stuff, and they're saying it's natural, but let me ask you something. You out there that are listening, what do you think's natural? Something that's an apple or something that's in a processed wrapper? I mean, it's pretty obvious. The word natural has been so misused. And I think that's why I go back, and that's why I wrote God's Amazing Machine, because I've now designated foods into God-made versus man-made. And it gives people a better insight, to what foods really are. So when you look at foods, you want to be more God-made foods versus man-made foods. And so many of these diets out there are all man-made foods. Even they're saying, oh, it's natural ingredients and whatever else. It's really not.
It's BS. I agree. I actually went on something, and again, I'll keep names out of it just out of respect. But it was a completely supplement-based type of diet, and they give you all these big things and vitamins, and I'm going through it and going, where's the whole organic food? I mean, we're beings of light, and I believe that's what nerves are at the end of the day. Am I correct? And
yeah, you've got these big communication centers and power centers.
And you need to feed it that light. So as I would, go through these grocery stores like Whole Foods, I would literally be looking at this, and one day it hit me, like you said, where this is not food. It says natural, and it's this and that. And someone who's studying marketing for years now, they're making you ask a different question, which is, does this taste good? Does this look healthy? Is the packaging right? Versus what does my body want, and how am I going to keep it going and functioning well? Because the thing that I've noticed when it comes to diets and feeling good, people worry only about losing weight. Well, I know there's a lot of people that have great bodies that no longer alive, and they're 6 feet under. And that's the thing that people need to realize is it's not only about losing weight, but it's also about maintaining a body that's functioning fully. And now with nerves, I mean, that's something I think about now all the time after we've been talking is, are my nerves firing? Is my body, the tree, is it green? Is it brown? Is there something going on that I don't know about? And that's why, I think that type of diet is so huge. So not only do you lose weight, not only does it make you feel better, but it also gives you the opportunity to really give the life-supporting supply to your nerves that you need. I mean, it seems like a win-win-win to me, especially with your program that's going to help people go through that. And that's something I want to talk with you offline. I mean, my father has a chiropractic office. Everything you're talking about seems so amazing. I not only want to give it to the people my father treats and yours, but also my huge audience that's listening to this interview right now. And it's something that we all need to be a part of. And let me know how I can help get that out, because I search high and low for these amazing techniques that are proven. I mean, 2 years of beta testing. I mean, that's unheard of.
Yeah, and again, don't think that it's the only expertise that went into this, because Dr. Diadamo's expertise goes back for years, and you can research him. And I was lucky enough to go out to New York 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. My wife and I went out and met with his wife and him, and he did this lecture there, and we got to talk with him and stuff. And as I mentioned before, I've been around a lot of very, very intelligent people, and I would put him as one of the most intelligent people in the world with respect to nutrition. And I had no idea going into this, that this is what I would discover. And I think that's another reason it took me a couple years beyond just sitting there and meeting with him, my scientific brain had had to wrap around all this stuff and be able to put enough people on it to get, good quality feedback and understand kind of what this thing's doing on a neurological level.
Perfect. So that brings me to my last question, which is, I'm already sold, but I want to know, who would you recommend this to? Is this only for a select group of people? Is it for everyone? Where's your feelings about that?
If you're a human being, you need to do this. It's one of those things you can't avoid, dealing with this problem. You either start dealing with it now, or you're just gonna keep staying in your rut. So if you're out there listening right now, and you're having days where you don't feel so good, and you got complaints, and maybe you feel older than you should feel. And I get this all the time. People walk in the office. Oh, I just turned 30. That's why I'm feeling this way. Really? I just turned 40. That's why I feel this way. No, people need to understand. You have a machine that if you take better care of your machine, then it's going to run better. So, like it or not, you're going to have to at some point get yourself rid of all these fads and all these ideas and all these concepts and people just scamming money out of you. And basically come back to reality and say, hey, I'm a human being. Human beings are made for God-made food. You have the God-given software within your body, all this software, all these neurological receptors that are firing from your brain, powering up your gastrointestinal tract, ready and waiting to process God-made food. So when you start shifting and understanding what God-made food is better for you, and then you start eating those God-made foods, then your system runs better. And I'm going to say this also. I'm a realist. So, I'm in Louisiana. I'm not in I'm not somewhere in California that, eats perfectly healthy all the time. We're in Louisiana. So I'm a realist. When people get on this particular diet, I'm not going to tell them every single day, hey, you only can eat your superfoods. And, you can't eat any of your avoids. It's not practical. What's reasonable and what's understandable is for people to eat more of their superfoods every day than their avoids. And, ideally, if it's 80% to 20%, you're going to be in a much better, situation with 80% superfoods, 20% avoids than you would be at, the other way, 80% of your avoids and 20% of your superfoods. And so it's just having this knowledge and gaining it and being able to understand your body and your genetics and your epigenetics and your structure and your nerves better to say, hey, I should or shouldn't be eating these foods.
Yeah. No, agreed 100%. And that's something that's so huge where you're really combining all aspects here and developing, because that's something I was always shocked about is the 7 billion people need to eat the same thing. But wow, you've really shown a lot of light on some stuff for me, and I'm going to be definitely jumping in. Is there a way that my audience can get to know you a little bit more? Do you have a website that I can direct them to to search around and see what's going on?
Yeah, sure. It's www.nervehealth.com and nervehealth.com. So everything we represent here is surrounding health on nerves. And so if all of you listening out there don't get anything of what we said tonight, please start focusing on your nerves and thinking about, you have a body complaint. It's not tendinitis, technically. It's not arthritis, technically. It's not maybe just a stomach problem, technically. There's an underlying deep-rooted problem with respect to nervous system or nerve dysfunction in that respective part of the body. So in other words, the brain is failing in a particular region of connectivity from the power supply from the brain to that respective part. So if you start thinking of your health with respect to nerves, by and large, you're going to help yourself, even if you never do this diet and you just start listening to your body better and you eat something, you don't feel good, well, guess what? Don't eat it again. Try to eat lesser amounts of it, So, we have to create this sort of mentality. And that's why I feel like education is half the battle. And that's another reason we started this Nerve Health Foundation is we want to educate people across the world on the importance of nerves and what nerves actually do, and make people nerve conscious. In fact, my goal is to make people in the world as conscious of their nerves as they are their teeth.
Wow. That's huge, because I know we all focus on our teeth a lot, but I bet if I took a gamble, your teeth, if they're not doing well, is probably the nerve supply to that as well, since everything starts and ends with nerves.
Well, that's why you hear the term root canal. What do you think the root is? You know, when people have a problem with the root, it's the nerve going to the tooth.
And then what do they end up doing with that? Cutting out the nerve?
Well, you know, there's a lot of bad PR on those things now, but you know, ideally, what happens is a bunch of stuff gets into the nerve and starts affecting the nerve to the tooth, and so they try to clean it up. But you know, ideally, we want to get in there and reinstall power to the teeth. And as we're talking about this, I got a bunch of my buddies that are dentists. I'm not saying I'm a dentist. But what I am saying is, you know, we go through the body and correct the body with the center of going to the nerves. And it's a scientific, non-arguable fact that each tooth has a nerve that goes to it. It's connected to the brain.
Yeah. That's huge. Well, thank you for all this amazing wisdom and taking, time out of your busy day to come and educate my audience and let them know what else options are out there. And I agree with you. I always look for ways when people say it can't be healed, that's just not true. Or, that's just the way you're supposed to feel, or aging, or you're having a bad day today, just tomorrow will be better. Well, sometimes it's not. And finding solutions for that. So thank you so much for all your time and really, educating me. I got so much to think about and bring into my own materials from what we talked about. And it's just so amazing. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Robbie. And, if you're out there, just keep plugging away. Your body has the ability to heal itself. Just listen to it.
Amen to that. From one master healer to your ears. Thank you so much. And guys, remember, if you don't have health, nothing else matters. And have a wonderful day and take care of your body. So take care. Bye.